Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are doing our virtual session for February. Our session today is titled Swipe Right on Innovation, Weaving Entrepreneurship and Modern Love. My name is Biti Amal, and I will be your host. I am the project lead and facilitator of virtual events at YEP. And today, I am joined by the co-founder and CEO of Jebena, Henok Mikael. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't think Jebena needs an introduction, especially.
Thank you for having me.
Our demographic, but of course I'll try to give some introduction to Henok. He received his bachelor's of science from the Ohio University in software engineering and computer sciences. Then he seemed to kind of jump all over the place, starting with JP Morgan Chase, then followed by Amazon and MasterCard, and now he is working as a CEO full time. So thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. Feel free to introduce yourself if I have missed anything.
Good introduction. Thank you, Betty, and the YEP team. Thank you for having me. My name is Henok. I'm the co-founder of Jebena. Pretty excited to tell you all more about Jebena and the entrepreneurship journey and how we can kind of build technology solutions for our community.
Yep, definitely an exciting conversation. And it's very interesting because even the theme was intentional this month because, with it being February and Valentine's Day, of course, this recently passed. I want to first wish everyone a happy belated Valentine's Day, including you, Henok, whom I heard you recently got married. So congratulations.
I can finally show off a ring,
Right?
She's had one for some time, but not me. So
yes, definitely. No, congratulations, and everyone at home. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. And again, like I said, that's kind of why we chose this to be the theme of for this month, because even with YEP being a professional organization, it's always nice to keep the fun and also the seriousness together. So we're going to be talking about some code and, of course, modern love. So to start with, I think I actually found this very interesting in that when you were at Ohio State University, you had something called a visual translator, which is an app you invented, right?
yeah.
And that actually led you to win the 2016 Tech Hub Student Project. And of course, you were able to get a grant as well from Ohio State. So tell us more about that, because I think that's actually very fascinating.
Yeah. You did your homework. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's that was my senior year. So in my university and many computer science colleges, in your last semester you get to choose like a personal project, a capstone project. So I ended up doing computer vision and AI. So to kind of I like learning by doing projects and like creating applications or website, whatever it is. That's like one of the best and most effective way to learn a new concept. So to help me learn computer vision better, I basically trained this like small language model using this is like before language models and LLMs became more mainstream, but you basically train it with tons of data, and then based on what you trained it, you can kind of predict different results it's never seen before. So basically, in short, it's like I fed it multiple text, Amharic and Tigrinya text, including religious text and other stuff, and then based on that, you can take a picture of any alphabet you see, like a restaurant sign or a menu sign, and then it would tell you what it's saying in Fidel. So it's not doing the language translation, but like it would tell you what the alphabets are. So that was kind of like a way for me to learn computer vision.
I see. So it's more like recognizing the letters, not
Yeah, definitely.
translating, but recognizing each letter as it comes up, or even making.
You can like write it, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's like the power of like machine learning and like artificial intelligence is like it's they able to predict stuff it's never seen before based on some other information that it was trained on. So you would on certain text, and then you can just write your name in Fidel, and it would like recognize it.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know we were doing machine learning in 2016.
yeah. The computer labs who are busy with this kind of work.
Yes, I guess. So, what led you to study software engineering to begin with, I guess?
I actually started in architecture, but yeah, like I just found it fascinating. It's one of the it was like one of the fewest divisions of the College of Engineering that had a little bit of like visual elements to it. I like visual work.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to like mechanical engineering or civil engineering, it was like more artistic, more computer based.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I chose it. And within that, I ended up doing mostly like front end design. So like user interface and like human computer interaction, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I mean that's very interesting. I feel like almost software engineering is a good mix between the nerdy science stuff to
Yeah.
learning a whole different language, and then and then of course like applying it into these real life
Yeah.
scenarios like what you're doing with Jebena. So,
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
walk us through the inception of Jebena.
We started Jebena in 2019, late 2019. Because I do software development. People are always pitching like app ideas and website ideas,
Yeah.
and so there used to be like different like Habesha oriented platforms on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, doing like matchmaking at that time. And
Mm.
my roommate at that time told me like, hey, people in the comments are saying there should be like a Habesha platform, like you should check it out. And then I start like reading the comments, and yeah, so basically people were saying like the same thing. It's like, oh, not everyone is an outgoing person that can just go live and start talking about what they want. So we need like an automated platform for this. So we started it in late 2019, and then we did the initial testing version in around this time, actually, like February 2020, and then the following month is when COVID happened. So in part, I think like the lockdown and people kind of being at home accelerated the growth, like especially in the early days. Um, but that's kind of like uh, uh, yeah, that was the time we started it. And the main problem we're trying to solve basically is like in the Habesha community, especially in the diaspora, like you're kind of scattered all over um, the country, whatever country you're in, like in the US or in a European country, and you won't be able to meet people your age unless it's like a wedding or a graduation. So this would kind of be like a niche social network that can let you meet your people. Um, and yeah, and then we've kind of been lucky that people have been giving us positive feedback since then.
That's incredible. Because honestly, I feel like you saw what was lacking, and of course, it's not to say that other platforms were not available, right? We have Hint, we have Bumble, all of that, but just trying to be able to filter out and just be able to select Abishas, I feel like
Yeah.
it's very difficult. So you saw what was missing, and then you addressed that need.
Yes.
You know, and what was the startup process like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because so like I'm more of like like sometimes I tend to overanalyze certain things, and like in the early days I think we probably waited a little too long to get it in the hands of people.
Mm.
And this tends to happen in startup process where before you even have like a very very simple version of it, you start thinking of like advanced features or like like iterating in your mind. um and the reason I'm saying that is like a huge chunk of the features we have right now and the iterations we went through was actually due to feedback from people, or due to like us realizing like, oh, there's like a gap in this process we haven't filled, so we need to find a way to fix that problem. um so I think that was one of the most important part, was to get to users like as soon as possible. And that's why it took us like I think 3 or 4 months for us to, because we thought like, okay, we can just create like an initial version, give it to people, and then within a few weeks we can go live. but it took us longer time in the stage than in the early stage of the development. And then even after you launch, it's not like, done deal, now we get to sleep. Like it took long time to stabilize the software, to prepare it for scale. So it's like just like a person, it goes through like different phases of like growth basically.
Mm. And I think that's the hardest part, I think, about starting out with something like this is like letting go of that perfectionism that you have,
Yep.
everything has to be right for you to then go live because then, the criticism is also very difficult, I think, in our community. So, so I'm glad you
Yeah.
were able to go past that and definitely launch. So give us the quick intro to Jebena now as it stands.
Yeah, definitely. So it's the first and largest Ethiopian Eritrean dating platform. Primarily focuses on the diaspora community because we think that's the community that um, needs this kind of platform the most. So as of this past holiday season, we actually crossed 1 million matches, and we're over 20 million message exchange right now, and we have a little over a quarter million users right now. Most of our users are in the US and Canada, and then in Europe. And more recently, to our surprise, we're getting more users in Ethiopia as we launched Android and as like we started developing the Android version of the platform. In terms of our team, we're a small 7 to 8 people team, kind of scattered all over as well. I'm in New York here, suffering this snowstorm, and I have teammates in the DMV, in the West Coast in San Francisco, and we have a couple of teammates in Rwanda and in Ethiopia as well.
Yeah, I first of all, congratulations. I mean, 1 million matches, that's a huge, huge accomplishment.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And second, even being able to launch ahead and move from just the diaspora community now, because now I feel like you're expanding your scope as well,
Yeah.
because just in the Americas and Europe, of course, but now going back home, what are the differences that you're seeing in these different demographics, or are there any differences?
Yeah. So interestingly, like let's start with like the initial market, right? So in the US, like to my point earlier about sometimes you have assumptions that are proven wrong. So we were reading about how like American dating platforms started, and many of them have similar stories where majority of their marketing actually went to acquiring like women users, like female users, because their thought process was, if there's enough women, the guys will just come. And we kind of had that kind of mindset, but to our surprise, like from the get-go, the distribution was basically equal. So they kind of felt comfortable. In some regions, there were actually more Habesha women than Habesha men. um, so that was like the interesting part, because our culture is conservative. We thought, well, if for American dating apps it's like 75 to 25, for Habeshas it's going to be like 90 to 10, but that was not the case. um, uh, but and then the other part of that assumption is like, okay, well, we're trying to connect people in the diaspora, so why would somebody in Ethiopia need it, because everybody around them is Habesha. But then it's like it's different because it's like branded. There's a reason we have like 20 brands of beer or 20 brands of like soft drinks, right? Like there's certain things that are like catered to you because of the branding, because of the marketing, and because of like how they engage with the community. Like the mainstream dating platform is not going to work with the Ethiopian soccer tournament or like like an Ethiopian like professional network. You know what I mean? I guess because of that, like it kind of started accelerating. So that surprised us. But the main surprise is like the gender distribution and like the demographic split,
Mm,
because it would be like we thought it would be like American apps.
mostly men.
Yeah.
And then they surprised you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, technically, that does not surprise me because I feel like
Yeah.
women are very much trying.
And it's like uh yeah, that's true. And many of them say that it's actually their first dating app, and
Mm,
it's just interesting how like the social aspect of it, like we're such social animals that, I've had many friends that would be like, oh no, I'm not gonna like install a dating app, like I'll support you some other way, I don't know what this is. And then when they see their friends like using it, they also start using it. So it's like, yeah, you also have that, like that kind of aspect to like the social proof.
Mm. No, it's definitely very interesting because I think doing something for the first time definitely puts you in this uncomfortable zone because then
Yeah,
market research, like you're saying, for example, is difficult to do because whatever is working well for these, American brands is not going to work within our community, right? So then
yeah,
you end up being kind of like the guinea pig and learning from your own experiences, really.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, that's definitely interesting. Um, what would you say have changed in the past, let's say since 2020 to now, right? Because I feel like in that era, people were still, like you're saying, not comfortable joining these dating apps, for example, to now. I don't know if it's the easiest way to meet people, but I would say so,
Yeah,
And what helped that stigma? Is it you that
yeah,
helped that stigma also? I mean,
yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, it's like the social aspect of it, where when you see other people, you tend to use it. Because same thing with like user testimonials, for example. So some people would message us on Instagram and they would say, hey, I just met somebody on Jebena, and we would say, wow, that's great, like can we share your story anonymously, or if you want publicly? And then they would say, no, 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 I'm just telling you this so you're happy, but I'm good. And then they would see another couple sharing their Jebena story, and then they're like, okay, we want to share our anniversary stories. So it's like, as we start sharing this like users couple stories, some of them start making TikToks and YouTube, like it kind of normalized it. And then people offline start talking about it. Like I've had like relatives in like weddings say like, that couple met on Jebena. And then like when the uncles and the aunties are even familiar with it, um, then that kind of stigmatizes it.
mm, mm. I mean, yeah. Let's first get the uncle side and then the mom.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so then I guess what, in your opinion, makes Jabana unique? Because part of the reason, we're having this conversation is also to motivate other people, right? To try something new. And
yeah,
with that comes how do you succeed and how do you keep your brand unique? So I know there are other platforms available and definitely good competitors to your brand, but what, in your personal opinion, makes Jabana more successful than others?
yeah. The, that's kind of difficult for me to be unbiased, but I think one of the things is like, there's like generic products, and then there's like niche products, and in many cases, if you can execute it well, like the niche products actually have more loyal users. So in our case, because like we were solving a difficult problem for the users, they were more likely to give us feedback. They would, if there's like issues with the software, or they face like difficulties, they were actually like going out of their way telling us like how we can improve it. But if it wasn't solving a problem to them, they would have just been like, okay, this is slow, or this is causing this kind of issue, I'm just gonna leave. But in terms of the uniqueness, like in this case, like you're you're specifically targeting like a specific community, and because of that, like your entire marketing and user acquisition and customer support has to tap into that community. And same thing with the product features. For example, most dating apps, like mainstream dating platforms, they match you based on your like circumference. But in our case, that wouldn't work, because if I put 5 miles radius, there's not going to be anybody around me. So we actually had to create like like custom distribution maps based on where the habitations are.
Mm,
So some of them are like custom maps we created, and others are like generic like state or county maps. Um, this wouldn't work like with mainstream apps, because then you would have like 10 million users in one bucket. But in our case, in one bucket you would have like 5,000 or 10,000 users. So that's enough mass where you can find people in your preference. So that's more on like the product decisions you make. Like, so you can't just like copy, okay, this is what this app did, so let me just do the same thing. Same thing like on the non-engineering side of it. We start working with like student organizations and other local events. That way the marketing is like more like grassroots, and there was aspect of it that was also like educational to what you were asking me earlier, like how do you destigmatize it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had users, especially when we launched in Europe, we had users who never used dating apps, and they would tell us like, how do I use this? So we had to like create like educational content too, so we can't assume like they know what super like and dislike means. So that was kind of like like the technical side, as well as like the marketing and the product side.
Hmm. That's very interesting because I think you bring out two questions I had in my mind. And the first one is this, what is it? Understanding your platform and also your community, right? So you say
Yeah,
in certain areas it works to block off, a certain mile radius, and then in other areas it doesn't. But that is part of the complaint that I have heard from users, for example, right? So
yeah,
I personally used to live in the West Coast, in the middle of nowhere, Utah. That's where I'm from.
yeah,
So in Utah, you don't meet a lot of Ethiopians or
yeah,
Africans in general, right?
yeah,
So you kind of know already the people that are around you, and so you are either going to have to be open-minded, like you're saying, and then be able to
yeah,
reach long distance, or you're going to be really stuck in that zone.
yeah,
So for some people that are not willing to move, for example, then this causes a friction, right?
yeah.
How would you be able to address that then?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because it's like this balance we have to do. So some of the things, sometimes we've seen cases when people are willing to sacrifice distance because they're meeting somebody from their background, but
Mm-hmm.
other times, so initially actually, um, we were releasing it zone by zone, so you can only match from like your area, and
Mm-hmm.
then the complaint we got was like, no, like, you know, I'm not like looking for Americans, I'm looking for Habesha. So in this case, I actually want like other states. So we added the ability for you to go out of your zone and to meet other people. And then we added, like, we made it global. So now you can even meet people from different countries. But yeah, like you do have a good point where we do need to give people capability to like filter out like others that are liking them that might not match their preference. We
Mm-hmm.
particularly get this one from women because they tend to get more likes. So they would say like, well, most of the people that are liking me don't match my preference. So how do I like, have like more capability to like filter it out even more?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, like we're kind of like trying to find like the right balance basically.
That's which is, I mean, I think that's part of the
Mm.
evolution of the app.
Yeah.
Is constantly learning from your audience. And I really do like your marketing style, like you were saying, this like grassroots kind of, offline kind of marketing in which you're accessing people, it may not be in the general mainstream like ads and so on. But is
Yeah.
that also something that you think could be pushing you back from accessing a larger audience?
Uh, Probably to some degree, but honestly, the way we look at it is like more like we rather have like fewer but more engaged and more loyal user base and happy users than like trying to maximize as much users as possible. So I can actually confidently say we've never spent a dollar on like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, like YouTube ads, like all of our advertisement and marketing has been through like working with like creators and then going to like offline events, like actually going to like events. So that's kind of how we approach it, at least for the features we have right now. But if we end up creating different kinds of features in the future that require like more generic user persona, then we can target like generalized ads.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah,
One, you're saving a lot of costs and promotions, of course, but then also, like you're saying, you do have brand loyalty, and
yeah,
again, I think that kind of goes back to what makes Jebena unique as well.
yeah.
Um, but with that, also, is there? Do you think limiting your users to a certain number of matches is also doing that same thing?
Yeah, so that was that's also like one of the things we were kind of trying to find the right amount. So we did that for a couple of reasons. One is like, um, we don't want it to become like, some of these mainstream apps where people are overindulging and you're just going, like, you're spending like 1 second per screen. We want people to spend more time per profile, so it's like quality over like quantity. And then the other part of it is like, in most regions, we actually don't have enough users for us to show you unlimited feed like these mainstream platforms. So we have to kind of take our time to see like if there's new users that signed up, and then compile them on a like 24-hour cycle and say like, hey, based on activities in our database from the last 24 hours and your preferences, these are like the people we think are like good for you. But you know, as the platform is growing now, we might have to make that more dynamic. In some areas, you have a lot of users where that number can be higher now, the daily limit. In some areas, like it's still very small pool of users. So we have to be like, we have to take our time to compile those people.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that, and I think I, for example, from our conversation today, I have learned so many things, right? Based on
Yeah,
just being an entrepreneur, right? Because
yeah,
you're saying for you to be successful, the first thing you had to do was find some kind of problem to solve. And
yeah,
without problem existing, of course, either there's something else that already has solved it, or
yeah,
it's going to be long lasting. And after you find that problem and you address it, don't be a perfectionist. Just go ahead and launch, right?
absolutely. Yep.
And then learn from your mistakes, learn your audience, use your community, whoever community that you're addressing, and learn from them because it seems a lot more collaborative, really. And
Yeah,
I have heard when I've asked, my friends and so on, somebody even contacted you and they said you were very nice about, getting back to them and addressing the issue that they were trying to solve with you. So it
yeah.
seems like a very collaborative environment, which I think makes your business very successful. So, what would you say then, in your experience so far in the past, like 6 years now?
Yeah.
What has been the biggest lessons you've learned? And I know you have a slide on that, so maybe you can walk us through that too.
There's a lot we've learned. If anybody's interested more on the technical side, we can talk about that. But
Mm-hmm.
to what you said earlier about like focusing on the problem, like it sounds so obvious, but when you're building like a new solution or a product, um, you have to work from the fundamentals of like what you're solving. So like if we look at Jebena, it's not a mobile application. It's a dating platform for Ethiopians and Eritreans. That's how we defined it, right? So when you say platform, right now we released a mobile application because mobile applications are popular, smartphones are popular. That's the medium that people use these days. But if this was the 90s, it would be a website. And then in the future, I don't know, maybe it would be a smart glass or something. So like a lot of times, like what I hear is like when people are like brainstorming like web application ideas or like app ideas or like tech product, they're focusing too much on the feature, right? So they would say, oh, and then you'll be able to do this, and then you would be able to do that. But then, like, what is like the actual like pain point of the person, of the user demographic that you're trying to solve? So in this case, we said, okay, well, it's hard to find Ethiopians, Eritreans in the diaspora. Like, so technically, we could have started it with like a spreadsheet, of like volunteers matchmaking people. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't need to be a mobile application. So the mobile application is like the tool, like the medium is like the tool. Um, so that's kind of like something we've learned like the hard way, but yeah, it's an interesting life cycle.
Yeah, and it seems like we had a question. Let me see if we can get it back. But yes, that's definitely a really, really important to make because you say solve the problem, not the product, right? Because the
Yep,
product will always evolve, but the
absolutely.
is what you're trying to address.
Yes. So it's like, and then the sooner you can build those like um, implicit and explicit feedback cycles. So you have like the implicit ones, the data you're gathering and trying to understand how users are using it, and then you have the more obvious one, like, hey, do you like this app? Or reading like how people are rating you on the platform, on the App Store, Play Store. Um, like those are very helpful. That it helps like expedite like the development cycle. It allows you to fix issues, but also like solve like new problems.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it seems like we have a comment from Temesgen on LinkedIn. He says, "Hi everyone, I'm Tommy. I'm an MS Computer Science graduate and founder of Novu Corp. Glad to be here and connect with everyone. It seems like we are connecting with some software engineers. Welcome, Temesgen. Nice.
Welcome.
Okay, so solve the problem, not the product. And then you also go through the three phases of growth.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So um, it's different. So in the early times, you want to prioritize getting to users and then getting like some kind of MVP, like minimal viable product, out as soon as possible. So it doesn't need to be perfect. You just want to like a thin layer of working, something that works. So in this case, if we said it's a dating platform, it's like what is the absolute bare minimum version of that? Okay, you need like some kind of photo, some kind of profile, some kind of matchmaking system, and some kind of communication system.
Hmm.
And then later on, like it will change where like most of your focus will actually be like on stabilizing that solution and then like fixing some of like the small issues that will come up. And
Hmm.
then when you're entering the scaling phase, then in most cases you actually have to rewrite some of the old stuff you did because you didn't build it on like solid foundation. You were moving fast, you were prioritizing speed and iteration. But then with the more users you have to optimize for like performance, optimizing for like cost. If there's a service that's costing you way too much, there's always a solution on how you can kind of make it more efficient.
Hmm. Where would you say has been the greatest challenge for you so far? Because you say first is making sure the product fits the market.
Yeah,
Second, you're trying to make sure that your product is stable, right? And then the third step being scalability, which to me, scalability seems to be not the easiest, but at least
yeah,
at this point you're well established, and so maybe you can
yeah,
operate with a lot more, professionals.
yeah, yeah.
So where has it been difficult for you? And
Definitely the scalability because we've been fortunate enough to have hit like a strong product market fit, and we have built a brand. But if you see like our last 2 3 LinkedIn job posts, they've all been like infrastructure engineers, cloud engineers, because we started facing so many like infrastructure and system related challenges, which are good problems to have. That means people are like using the platform, but then it goes back to this is like a term we use in the tech world, like tech debt. So you have this tech debt because in the early phase you're like moving fast trying to iterate,
Mhm.
um, but then in the scaling phase you're kind of stepping back to see like, okay, how do we build a very solid foundation where let's say 100,000, 200,000 people hit this service at the same time, what would happen to it? um, so that requires different kind of skill set from like the initial MVP stage. Same thing with your like cost. Now you have real users, so you have real expenses as well. So you have to be very careful on how you monitor like your usage, your like expenditures.
Mhm. That's interesting again. See, I thought scalability would be the easy one, but I can understand, like, because
Yeah.
you open it to a bigger market, then the demands also become more difficult to deal with.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and then third point, you say don't reinvent the wheel. What does that mean
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah. So there's another tip that kind of sounds like very obvious, but so when we say software development, it's a huge spectrum on how you can build a platform. You can use like a white label service where basically we could have bought a software from like India or whatever, and then just renamed it Jebena. So this is like called white label, where you're just rebranding it, but it's like a built package that you're buying, right? So
Mhm.
it's like you're moving into like a fully furnished apartment, but you don't get to choose on any of the specs because the house is already built. And then on the other hand, you can build it from scratch, build everything from scratch. So you have to find the right balance where um, if there is a service you can utilize that will make it easier for you to get your end goal, then you can do that. So I'll give you an example. Um, the customer support part of Jebena, we were doing that ourselves, and it was very hard for us to build and maintain the part of the app that just does customer support. And then we realized there's so many managed services that we can use that major companies are using that makes like, reaching out to customers and messaging them, creating ticketing system much easier. So tons of companies already solve this problem, from like the largest banks to the smallest startups. We didn't really need to build like a customer management service. So we just started using it. It cost us like a fraction of what it would have cost us to hire engineers to build that from scratch. Um, so this goes on the technical side, even on the processes side. So like, how you do your operations, like on the day to day, like, how you do your project management, your updates, your backlog management, your quality assurance testing. If there's like a tool that you can utilize to give you leverage, like definitely go for it. So it's that spectrum. Like it depends on the platform. If it's like, let's say, it's a coffee shop and you just have like a very simple menu application, you don't really need to build a full-fledged database to kind of manage for your small coffee shop's menu website. Like there's like vendors that you can pay $20 a month that will give you a very nice landing page where people can see the menu. They can see like they can order in there. Like you've probably seen it at some cafes where you have like the toast QR codes. Like I have another example actually from like my old church where they were trying to have like developers build like a full-fledged church website, and when somebody asked me, like we told them like, no, there's tons of like services that are hyper focused on like charity organizations and church, where you can literally build a church site where people can donate to the church and like do all these events. You can send people text message, like event goers. It would cost you a lot of money, and more importantly, somebody would have to maintain it if you were to build that yourself. Whereas you can pay somebody $20, $30 a month to have this managed service. So this is like, it's a wide spectrum when you're like building a product.
Yes, I can agree more. But I feel like that also, in a way, requires having that knowledge. And then
Yeah.
when you do have knowledge, I think sharing it is also another area, right? So, for example, if you
Yeah.
know that, I wouldn't know that. So, if my church came up to me and said, "Hey, I wanted to do this," I would probably start making the website from scratch myself.
Yeah. It's the same thing for like online creators too. Like I have friends that have like fitness, businesses and stuff, and they're like, I need somebody to build me a website. I'm like, you don't need somebody to build you a website from scratch. Like see what's out there so that you can kind of like, I'm pretty sure there's like a service that's geared to like people that sell courses, fitness courses that you can pay $15 a month for.
Well, now we know. So yes, that's an easy, I guess, takeaway for our audience also today. If you want to create a platform, check to make sure that there's something already in existence. So
Yeah,
reinvent the wheel. Um,
absolutely.
Ruth Wendemu from LinkedIn just left us a message. She thanks us for the session, and then, of course, thanks you, but has a question. So, what methods have you been able to utilize to capitalize Jebena? That's a really good point that I have yet brought up is money.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're a business. So there's different models. The most popular for our kind of business is a freemium model, which coincidentally is also what LinkedIn uses, where you have core features that are free, and then you have premium features. So that's freemium business model. So that's how we make money. The core of our services, so being able to meet people, at least 10 a day, and then message them, that's free. But then there's like other features where you can explore people that have been liking your profile, or like get further in the queue system if you wanna. It's like a VIP access to get like closer, and then and then yeah, those are the paid features we have right now. We might add more in the future, but that's our business model.
Hmm. So this is really self-funded then.
Yeah, it's been self-funded and fully profitable since the beginning. I'm telling you, people are paying. Women are paying. To your surprise,
That's
it's not
actually,
just it's not just the guys.
and there's nothing wrong with that. First of all, I think
Yeah,
take that stigma away. But would you
yeah,
say
definitely.
then one pays more than the other demographic?
I mean, it's definitely more men, but yeah, it's like yeah, still paying users. Yeah, um,
That's actually incredible, honestly, because
yeah,
to have what 78 employees you said now
yeah,
doing this, and then you also are now doing this full time.
correct.
So definitely, there's some money around the love area.
It's still a niche market, serving like a smaller community, but definitely we'll try to scale like the solutions, and then hopefully the business also scales with that.
Yeah. And what would you use, let's say, if you wanted to do that? Let's say somebody who's at your scale, right?
Yeah.
Is thinking about expanding some more when we talk about scalability. So besides crowdfunding, what options would you then try?
For like capital, so the most common for our kind of business is like to do like a venture capital. So basically, you sell part of your company, like you sell equity in the company, and then there's different classes of that. You can have like a seed round with institutional investors. You can also do like family and friend round, or a combination of both. And then in the middle, you have like angel investors. So these are like one or two people that will write like larger checks of like 100K to 100K each. And then they're more informal than like the institutional investors. So that's definitely an option on the table. But right, so far we haven't, like, our approach to crowdfunding and like venture is like, we won't do that unless we reach that level where we can actually um, prove like the business case, because they're not charity organizations. They also need a return on their investment. So you don't want to raise funds just for the sake of raising funds, but to actually solve like a goal you have.
Yeah. And yeah, of course, now you have people to answer to, right?
Yeah,
Which makes it, yeah, more challenging.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
okay, then you say, just I feel like we went slightly off topic, but in terms of lesson learned, you say scale processes, not just softwares. What does that mean?
Yeah. So in our case, this was one of the things that we learned the hard way. Is like, since I come from software background and my co-founder also comes from that, and then one of us is from product. The the We were mostly focused on the engineering side, and then we realized like there's a huge chunk of it that's non-engineering that needs to be solved. And so there is like a difference between like a software versus like a software business. So the business itself, like how you operate, let's say, like how you handle like customer refunds, or how you manage like the cycle between like the quality assurance testing that's been done by a teammate with the testing that's been done by um, by like the system engineer, and then how you communicate it with the marketing person, like what tools do you use like on a day to day, like uh, we really had to like optimize that process, like from like how frequently we have meetings, like how we take notes in the meetings. We even have like a format in which we send like Slack messages, because we realized at one point like Slack was getting too noisy, and it was very hard for us to um, identify like the hierarchy of the information, because not every notification is important. So we created a way for us to like organize message. That way, like, okay, these are like the most critical ones, and these are like level 2, and these are level 3. Same thing with customer support. So most of this is not even like engineering or technical, but it's like, you see a process, you don't want to like, if you keep if you find yourself keep repeating the same thing over and over, then you have to kind of step back and say like, okay, how can we kind of like optimize this process? And I would say there were times where, majority of our time was actually spent on non-technical side than like the technical side.
That makes sense, especially when you have, a
Yeah.
small group. Then
Yeah.
efficiency becomes even more important because, you don't have time to go through each messages or reply to every.
Absolutely. And we're fully remote too. So we're all over. Like we have teammates in Rwanda, Ethiopia. So we have a different time zone. So now the communication becomes like the most important part of it, because you're not, if this was like a traditional office space, I can just go to my teammate, be like, hey, Nahom, can you look into that issue? But now, like, I have to synthesize my thoughts and my questions like in certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And have you used any AI technology when it comes to, again, creating this efficiency, or do you think in the future?
Yeah, we definitely plan to use more of that in the future. So far, the way we've been using it is mostly like on the engineering side, like on the coding side. But we did announce a couple of years ago in 2023. We made our like customer support bot. We used to have this bot, like a pre-AI bot that would answer basic questions. But now with generative AI, we gave it more capability to to answer like the vast majority of user questions. That way, we get the more difficult and non-repetitive or unique questions, because most people ask similar questions over and over.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about AI is like it unlocks the power of like human language natural language context. Like what I mean is like in the pre-AI version of we call it Auntie Almaz, like the customer support bot. So in the early version of Auntie Almaz, she was not very smart. Okay, so you have to ask like in a very specific way, right? You have to use certain keywords. But now it's like context. So if I say like, let me find an example. Like if I say like, if you're interested in somebody that loves soccer, without AI, you have to look for keywords, specific keywords like soccer, football, blah, blah, right?
Yeah.
But with AI, if somebody said, hey, on Saturday mornings, I like watching Manchester United, like they have not said the word soccer, they have not said like football, but you as a human, it sounds obvious, right? You're like, well, they're clearly talking about soccer, but to a computer, it's not obvious. So that's the same thing with our customer support. It's like the person can be talking about the same thing, but they're just wording it differently. And unless you're using like this Gen AI models, it becomes hard to address what they meant. Now, Auntie Almaz is like on a whole new level.
Now I'm curious to try what Auntie Almas has to say.
She's not judgy, I promise. She's a less judgy Almaz.
Because all my Auntie Almas, I don't think they were that. Okay, then that brings me up to my next question: is how open are you to then expanding even the language barrier? Really,
Yeah.
Amharic is not a functionality, or Tigrinya is not, right?
No, that's a good point. We're definitely looking into that. It's funny because when we launched on Android, we got a lot of users from Europe and from Ethiopia, and some of the questions they send us are actually in Amharic or Tigrinya, and some of them would send us like in Scandinavian language, like Norwegian and Swedish. So I remember one time one of my teammates, I just saw him like opening like multiple Google Translate tabs, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, this person is talking to me in Swedish, so I'm translating to respond to them. So he literally would like copy her question, put it on Google Translate. And I was like, oh, you know what? We definitely need to look into this, because now we can actually like utilize these tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe we need your app, your translator app.
Translator. full circle, huh?
Exactly, full circle.
Give Auntie Alma's more language to speak.
Exactly. No, because I mean, I feel like, especially nowadays, for some people, it's also something important. Like for me, for example, for a very long time, it was very important that I match with someone who spoke Amaringa or who read Amaringa, So then having that functionality even to text, probably,
Yeah.
but it would be good to see.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so then what's next for Jebena? And Nati seems to have a comment here. So before we go, let's see what he's saying. I always try to encourage my single friends to try the app, but they are often hesitant. Would you be able to share any metrics on match success rates or outcomes?
Hey, just go to our IG page and see all the testimonials of the couples that met there. They always say the same thing. It's like, oh, I was hesitant about this, and then my friend made me join it, and then I'm glad I did. So just give it a shot and be intentional. Like if you're like genuine, like people will see that, and then when they meet someone, they can let us know.
Yes, I actually like your page because it feels very like nice, especially because the dating process can be so painful
Yeah.
sometimes. So just to see these success stories, it,
Yeah, we try to keep it positive. We don't want to like be like, "Hey, download this." Like it's like, "Hey, let's hear what these couples have to say."
yeah, definitely. And Halit also has a comment. He says, "Really cool hearing how you're incorporating AI. Do you utilize word embedding in your models to help Auntie Almas understand different questions?"
No, we don't really need to do that. It's like to my point about like utilizing existing tools earlier. Uh, Similar thing with AI. You instead of like what you're describing, for example, right now, like unless you're very large corporation that fully needs high level customization of like trillions of data, you don't like for an app our scale, we don't really need to do that. Like out of box service like Anthropic model or OpenAI, but you give it the context of your own data. That makes sense. So yeah, so what we do is basically, we just like, we synthesize the user's questions, and then the model knows like certain facts about the platform. So it knows what the platform is and how to use it. So it's not going to, if you tell it like, my video call on Jebena is not working, it will tell you like, Jebena doesn't have a video call service. So it has like a facts sheet that it references.
Mm-hmm.
But then to what I was saying earlier about unlocking the language of the power of context is like, you don't really need to say video model. You can be like, I tried calling this person, it didn't work, or I tried ringing them, it didn't work. It will know what you meant, and then it will know that we don't have that feature. So there's like a fact sheet we have, and then we use the AI to unlock context.
Interesting. So by again, I'm not a software engineer. I'm just a scientist.
Yeah.
So word embedding means nothing to me. Howard, I'm assuming you're a software engineer. So for those that are like me that are confused with this by this question, what is word embedding? Is that what you're saying? Is a literal like word needs to be present for the AI to then recognize it?
It's basically like, you're aggregating certain input. It can be like text message, and then you're able to ask about that specific um, uh, text. So in this case, like, we're embedding like some knowledge about Jebena. We're telling it like, hey, Jebena is an Ethiopian Eritrean dating platform, blah blah. Like we're embedding this knowledge, and then that crosses with like what the language model knows about the English language. So when you ask certain things in certain way in English, like it will use the knowledge graph, but also the language model, and then it will give you the answer based on those.
I see. Okay, kind of like
Yeah,
a list of FAQs for
yeah.
the model itself.
But yeah, but what makes this different from like a traditional DB is like the soccer example I was given earlier. In traditional database, you would have to look for specific words, but in this case, you're embedding them in a way that they can be understood with a different wordings.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. See, I'm learning different things already. Okay.
It's changing. It's always changing this industry.
Honestly, all these jargons that normal people have no idea what they mean. You're just not. Okay. So what's next for Jebena?
um, so the main focus we have right now basically is the scaling part I was saying earlier, like to make the system super robust. And then we have a couple of features on the pipeline that we'll announce soon. We have um, like our users are very vocal in telling us the kind of features they want. One of the top requests is like the ability to network with people in non-romantic way, right? Platonic relationships, especially when people move to new cities or they have a new job. There's like a top request. There's a lot more features we have in the pipeline. We'll start making those announcements, um, and then definitely invest in more like in the East African market, because I mentioned earlier, we're growing in Ethiopia, but because the banking system and the finance system in the country is not connected to the App Store and the Play Store, we're still not like fully operational there. So there's like some like technical and operational stuff we have to solve in Ethiopia, but that would be like the next phase, and it would be very interesting to see how people there use it, because it's a different demographic, right? It's like everyone around you looks like you. So now, like, well, what will the dynamic be? So we're very excited about that.
That's actually one of the comments that I wanted to make, was this friend finding ability.
Yeah,
I don't need to meet someone, but I need to make more friends.
yeah. Somebody at an event told me she moved to Seattle and she wanted to meet more girls, like she wanted more girlfriends. So she created a Jebena account, but she made her gender a man. And then in the bio, she said, I'm not looking for dating. I just want to meet women. So she told me like she met like a couple of girls and she went on like, coffee dates with them just to hang out. And I was like, oh, you hacked the system. Nice. So I guess we do need to add that as a feature.
I don't know if I would have believed that, to be honest. But yeah, that's one way to work around it. But really, that is definitely a feature I think most apps need, because
Yeah.
when I first moved to the DMV area, it was actually really
Yeah.
hard, because as an adult, where do you really make friends? And then if you're being selective over being, Habeshas, for example, then it kind of
Yeah.
makes it even more difficult. So, Yep was great for that. And then other apps were also great. So, Jebena, I think, should definitely consider that.
For
And
sure.
then you say you're scaling in Africa. I'm curious, why? Where did you say, Tanzania, or where
Uh,
besides Ethiopia? Yeah, where are
we
you?
have a team in Rwanda. We have a teammate in Rwanda.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably expand our team a little bit to Kenya as well. It's the largest software market in Africa. Like it's the Silicon Valley of Africa. So the talent there is incredible. Um, so that's definitely something we're looking into. We've had great experience in the East African market, so we'll focus there.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. And
Yeah,
I'm very glad that you're expanding and scaling again to even additional countries, because I'm sure there's a lot of Ethiopians or Habeshas in Kenya
yeah.
as well. So yeah,
Oh,
definitely
definitely. Yeah.
demographic. Yeah, it seems like we have been having this great conversation. Just time flew by. So, uh,
Oh wow, an hour. That's amazing.
right? I didn't feel like that was definitely an hour.
Yeah.
Unless, if you have any questions for Henok, please feel free to ask. We have about a minute. And while you're possibly drafting your questions, Henok, do you have anything you want to say as far as last remarks are concerned?
I think we've covered a lot of it, but yeah, it's if anybody's interested in software development, it's definitely a fun process. Um, and don't be discouraged by like if there's like a large company or like a general audience company that's already out there doing similar thing you're doing. There's always something for everyone. There's the market is always diverse. So yeah, just keep doing your thing.
Yes, it's always great to have options, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes, definitely. But thank you very much. Honestly, this has been such a great conversation to have, and I'm glad we were able to talk about not only just software engineering but also about business and what it means to really serve your community, right, and learn and engage within your community. So, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today, and I hope we could definitely collab in the future as well.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Ep, for having me. This was great.
Yes.